All right, so welcome back to another great virtual event here from Foodable Network, and this is kicking off our Volume 2 of Recover America. It's a restaurant symposium that is really focused on helping operators, whether you're an independent operator, a chain operator, to kind of get your business ready for 2021 and beyond during this amazing crisis that we've been dealing with over the past 8 to 9 months. I want to kind of jump into this a little bit because this keynote is a little different than some of our past sessions. Today, we actually have two experts joining us on the topic, and the topic today is best practices for sanitary operations and how to execute them. So a lot of times restaurants, probably the number one question we're seeing asked in the industry is how to execute on making sure guests feel safe. And we've had a chance to talk a little bit with Robert before in our previous. If you haven't checked out that virtual event, make sure and click it because you can get all that on demand, all 5 sessions. But Robert and I talked a little bit about how to bring guests back. In this episode and session, we're going to talk about how to keep them safe and the tools to do so. So joining me today, I've got Robert Irvine, who is a world-class chef and entrepreneur and tireless philanthropic supporter of our nation's military. The host of Food Network's hit show, Restaurant Impossible, and has given struggling restaurants a second chance to turn their lives and business around. Over 200 episodes and counting, so it's perfect for Recover America. And then also joining me is John New, the CEO of WorkMerk. John founded WorkMerk, built upon the belief that employees are born to adapt in a rapidly changing world. WorkMerk provides consulting and technology solutions to enable organizations to survive. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time today. Welcome to Recover America.
Thanks, Paul. Great to be here.
All right. So let's just kick it off. Robert, a little bit about how you're involved with VirusSafe Pro and WorkMerk. What was the relationship? I think it's like a marriage made in heaven here, especially during these times. Talk to me a little bit about how that started.
Well, I actually met John at a military kind of Shark Tank, if you like, in Philadelphia. I'm doing my show. WorkMerk is a great bunch of veterans that get together and create systems and protocols for a numerous platform of products. I do protocols in my show. John and his team were working on VirusSafe Pro. We got together, same mindset, and here we are, years later doing what we're doing. But when you work with a group of people that have the same kind of sense of how do we help people get through problems. They've all come from the military background. They know systems, they know protocols, and I'm in the restaurant business. But WorkMerk is not just VirusSafe Pro. It's a whole bunch of other stuff that we can get into later. But that's how we met, and now we're changing the world one restaurant, one VirusSafe Pro at a time.
Yeah, I like it. Robert, that's something that we have... Go ahead, John.
Sorry, so Robert's being humble. So I share the passions of helping fellow vets. I'm a former Army captain. What I love giving back, founded the first veteran Shark Tank in the U.S. with a colleague years ago. I was the guy on the stage, and finally we got a better looking, more well-known host, and Robert took over for me. But it's awesome to come back together here and really help America.
Yeah. Well, and see, that's something that I'm watching in the industry right now happen is chefs like Robert, food personalities, et cetera, that are starting to join forces with organizations, whether they're philanthropic or whether they're something in operations or technology based to help the restaurant industry kind of get their feet back under them, because we have obviously went through some pretty devastating carnage in the industry. John, I want to kind of open up the session here with you and talk a little bit about WorkMerk and kind of the initiative of VirusSafe Pro, because this is one of the #1 topics that do come up in, at least on our network, more so than ever, is safety. Not necessarily food safety as much anymore, which always has been a kind of the flagstone of the industry, but instead it's now guest safety, staff safety. Talk to me how VirusSafe Pro starts to solve some of those problems.
Yeah, that's great. So 20 years ago, I started in the hospitality business. Went from the Army to start a business called The Hub, and I worked with Steven Star Restaurants and Jose Garces. And I was emphatic about both customer satisfaction and standards, that Robert and I share those same passions. So I sold that business in 2016, and I recognized that from disrupting the workplace and hospitality, that the workplace is inhabited by the workforce. And having managed soldiers to a couple hundred folks in hospitality, I realized that it's not always that John and Jane are dumb, don't care, or aren't motivated. It's that they don't always have the tools at hand to remember all the critical and important tasks that we train them on and give them the tools to be successful. So we've created an artificial intelligence platform that takes all of those important standard operating procedures and protocols and reminds them with contextual cues based on location, time, and relevancy, when and how they need it.
Interesting. All right, so processes are, if you think about restaurant operations, whether you've been in the restaurant industry for 5 months or 5 years or 5 decades, processes within a really well-run operation are kind of the bellwether of being able to run your business the same every time. It's how brands, when you look at multi-unit brands, this is how they build brands, is to keep the consistency across. So I like what you guys are doing in terms of safety, especially because it starts to create somewhat of a benchmark for the industry. If this could become a thing where a benchmark basically on a VirusSafe Pro score would be kind of the safety standard of a restaurant, almost like what you get from the, your A through F score on food safety and cleanliness in a restaurant. When you think about it that way, it changes kind of the dynamic. Robert, you know more than ever how employees respond to that. So I'm kind of curious, how do employees respond to this? Because sometimes I feel like that's Big Brother, but at the same time, it's like one of those things you got to do. What do you think?
It's interesting because as well as I do, both of you, that employees, if they can get away with something, they will. They won't do it. So we're giving measurable accountability, right? We can tell you that you were in the refrigerator and you did sweep it, as opposed to you marking a chart and saying, yes, I did it, but I was smoking a cigarette outside. There's always going to be people trying to sidestep extra tasks. This is saying, well, listen, I know you're in the fridge. I know at 10:20 you did it because I can geotag you through your phone, and it is Big Brother. I mean, there's something about modern technology which I love, and there's some things which I don't. You can now drive the length of the country, and we know when you went to a certain place. That's how crimes are solved right now. So I think, yes, technology is a great thing, not only in VirusSafe Pro, but having the truncation or the depth, the internet depth, to be able to teach you through your phone. We can send you how to fry a piece of chicken, or we can send you how to do that job that I'm asking you to do that you don't know how to do it.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I like that. John, this kind of brings up a topic I'm kind of curious with how you guys are doing product development, because one thing, and I think Robert will agree with me, is finding the rock stars in your business is always pretty hard. It might be a bartender or a maitre d' or maybe a wait staff person. With someone like this, if they're following procedures and protocol right, I'm assuming this starts to surface your good eggs that you have within the operation. Do you guys do any kind of data gathering like that can help an operator kind of understand, hey, this is my best people when it comes to protecting my staff and my guests?
Yes. So we refer to ourselves the winning habits company. So when you got your lowest common denominator, whether it's in the military or a kitchen or whatever it might be, oftentimes it is STM. It's small things matter. So whether it's Herschel Walker doing 1,000 push-ups a day or whatever it might be, these little things that we all do every day have a compound effect on big implications. As you mentioned, how managers can verify things are being done in multi-store operations. So, I neglected to share how we evolved from WorkMerk on winning habits and many different tasks. When the virus was introduced to all of us, we went from a world where following standard operating procedures and protocols were important and essential to now ensuring that we really have wiped down the door handle and the table and and following that. Now we've gone to a level of critical. And moreover, as Robert has identified many times and worked with many restaurants that we work with and that he's personally been involved with over the years, is now it's just another layer of, you mentioned the word big brother, but now the government has introduced themselves into measuring a whole new set of tasks. So we study a lot about neuroscience, and whether we're teaching our employees or our kids or ourselves, we learn a new task after doing something 250 to 300 times. To unlearn a bad task is 2,500 to 3,000 times. So 250 times sounds like a lot, but it isn't. So once an hour to remind Robert, John, and Jane about introducing a new protocol, whether it's 6 feet in distance for tables, whether it's wiping down door handles or a certain behind the line standard, is another layer of complexity that we make EASY. And that's the last part that Robert's really helped drill down on the user interface, is that we believe that we'd rather have 3 questions of red, yellow, green, yes, no, than 42 questions asked 95 times a day. We got our hands full with cutting carrots and chicken and tending all the things we got to do. This has to be as easy as possible, and also integrating with our artificial intelligence, with other IoT, the Internet of Things, camera systems, sensors in coolers, on and on and on.
So I like that. I want to talk about that. Go ahead, Robert.
I also think that, Paul, you hit something on the nail on the head there when we're talking about the superstars that rise, right? We've seen heroes come from everywhere right now, in COVID, whether the garbage men or the frontline workers, they're heroes, right? They come to the top. And what VirusSafe Pro does, it gives me an accountability of not only those people, but we can see who's doing those jobs in real time and doing them well, which in then turns to, and we talk about this many times, the standard of care, the duty of care that we always say in the military. But now we're saying, okay, this is what we've done. And I go back to letting the guests that feel unsafe now feel safe because they can see what's happening in those restaurants. And the employees are talking about it to their families and so on and so on. So you'll see these protocols and systems that are in place from VirusSafe Pro and the other platforms give them pride, almost a workplace pride.
Yeah, for sure. Robert, I want to continue on that topic because this is something that as you start to roll out, whether it's technology, systems within an operation, a restaurant, I mean, because there's a lot that has changed within how we do business today on day in, day out basis. With your series on Restaurant Impossible, you're out there with operators kind of going through that whole process of how to bring your business back, usually under certain different circumstances, but kind of the same now. When you first talk to a staff or a team of people, when you're in one of these restaurants, that you've got to change something protocol-wise, that's a big step. How do you get buy-in from that team, whether it's the chef, the dishwasher, the front of house? How do you get buy-in?
Well, it's making them part of the process. Because, when Big Brother, Robert Irvine, walks in with to tell you you're doing everything wrong, the natural reaction is, we can't be doing everything wrong. You must just be making television. Well, that's not the case, because I'm the operator. I'm the guy that does this. So I say, okay, so a simple task, rolling silverware in a napkin, right? Mm-hmm. And we don't use napkins. We use heavy paper napkins. But I literally I show them 3 or 4 times. I then let them do it. And I go back and I undo every one that they've done so they can do it again. And it's a thought process that I make them think, oh, well, why did we undo it? It wasn't good enough. So now they're into this system of rolling it. By the end of day 2, they know how to roll silverware.
Right.
And they feel proud that they've achieved something. It's like when you wake up in the morning, you tell your kids to make the bed, right? Why do we do that? Because you've achieved a task before you cleaned your teeth. You have to make them feel part of the process, and they understand that it's for their safety and for the guest safety, which is going to bring in more customers that have stayed away because you've got better protocols.
Yeah, for sure. I see that happening in a lot of training systems and repetition, and then of course consistency is a huge factor. John, I want to get into deployment on something of this nature, because some operators may look at this and say, gosh, this is just too much for me to take on. Maybe this is overcomplicated. What would you say to someone in being able to roll out VirusSafe Pro, the necessary steps they have to take to say, get this baby off the mark and get it going?
That's a great question. So we only have a few options. So first of all, we're a technology company, but it's not like it's a cyber screening process that's going through a lot of digits. It's about getting it down to the folks on the ground who are really rolling napkins, who are providing a service and caring for their customers each and every day. So this is about a simple, easy to use mobile platform that's already with tools that already exist in what they're already doing. So we call it the 5, 5, and 5 program. In 5 minutes, 5 questions will have you up and running in 5 days. If it's not used, it's no good. And moreover, artificial intelligence allows us to take what I referred to earlier of sensors and tools that already exist and have it interact with the program. It ultimately provides what Robert referred to earlier of data that helps both management and folks on the ground. And then that starts to inform how we can make this process better and better. The folks that you talked about, the superstars early on, we identify what their winning habits are and help bring it to the rest of the organization to just help enable the entire organization to be better and better.
Yeah. Something I noted when I was doing some research on the product before our session here is this dashboard concept that you guys have created. To me, was very intriguing. I mean, I love dashboards. We've been in data forever, and a lot of times you can get what we call leading indicators. If you run on a dashboard and you're really monitoring and you're using the tool the best you can. But I love the fact that as a dashboard, you could potentially resolve an issue much faster if you've got a safety issue, whether it's for staff or for guests, by just identifying something that's not occurring at one of your locations. Say you have 2 or 3 restaurants, and be able to fix that, because in most cases without that, you would be unknown until you saw it in person not happening. So I would see that has got to be a huge selling tool for you guys. Would you say so?
Oh, without question. Ironically, we have a deployment at a large complex in your town in Miami, and that was the exact predicament. You have, let's just say, for example, that they're consuming 20 gallons of cleaner a day, and their task is to sanitize lobby areas, pools, restaurants, whatever it might be. Guess when the manager finds out that people are only going around 50% of the time? When they go to reorder and they only order 2 pallets versus 4.
Yeah.
So now we know in minutes that Robert, John, and Jane have not done their rounds or followed the correct protocols. So without question, it's about real-time correction. And I even found that even with highly trained, highly disciplined combat units, I had to put my boots on in the middle of the night and 2 in the morning and do the rounds of folks in the perimeter and find that they were playing cards or asleep at the job. We've worked with both healthcare, the Air Force, and others. And again, we believe in people, but there are studs and there are duds, or the female equivalent. And it's about just recognizing that we all need those regular reminders, and that data help and the dashboards really help identify that in real time.
For sure. Robert, I want to jump to you. All right, so technology has been kind of the differentiator in a lot of operators, especially the last 4 or 5 months. It started to create some clearance in the pack that operators are winning. There are some out there that are actually doing well during this time, but there's a lot of them that are not, and it's usually technology that is the differentiator here. What are you seeing out there in the field that you would say, hey, you really need to pay a point, if you're looking at all your technology stack, these are the things you really need to point to and pay attention on?
Well, I think the obvious one right away is point of sale, right? So I use technology so much in my own businesses, but when I'm in the street and I'm literally, I told you, I'm here doing shows now, it's really interesting that people don't have the basics of technology. They don't have operating systems that when orders come in, they go into the point of sale, the recipes are in there. so it takes off inventory as you make a dish, et cetera, et cetera. But there's so much come out, and there's so much new technology since COVID. I mean, we've been in COVID since March. We're in October now, and look at all these companies, tech companies, that come up with so many amazing things. I mean, I'll tell you, I should say, how VirusSafe Pro has come to the forefront of all these technologies. The partnership with the National Restaurant Association, and John can get into that a little bit, but the biggest governing body of restaurants, if you like, which I call it, they partnered with us for a reason, because this is something that works. Yeah. There are lots of fly-by-night technology that will help a small business, but won't help a mid-size or a large business. The biggest thing we have to do in our industry is train people and hold people accountable. That's it. And if you don't train them correctly, how can you hold them accountable for doing their job? This does both. I would say the biggest thing for technology right now for me is the touchless systems, the payments systems, using your smartphone for menus and all those things. But eventually, these technologies are going to phase out, because we're going to go back to paper menus. We're going to go back to these things. But what's not going to phase out are technologies like VirusSafe Pro and others that are really doing real-time dashboard kind of things that are holding our people accountable, because this on a piece of paper doesn't work anymore, because the customers don't trust pieces of paper and people anymore.
Right, for
and,
sure.
And that's the be-all and end-all of it, to get people back into the restaurants. And we talked about this 1,000 times. We have to prove that we're doing something to make them feel comfortable.
Quick question here before we go to both of you. Third-party delivery, big deal. Curbside takeaway, however you want to look at it, food away from the restaurant is really blowing up. John, when you look at that opportunity, because I see another point of disruption when a third-party delivery driver grabs my bag, now has control, custody and care of my restaurant order, and he's taking it to his restaurant or to my house. Is VirusSafe Pro doing anything to kind of extend that, extension of the restaurant to kind of solve that problem?
We are working with a number of those operators. And to Robert's point, whether it's a gig economy worker in the delivery business or a new hire or even a new practice, allowing to take instruction to new protocols, put it on a device, and watch a video in real time is imperative. And then we test and measure, like, hey, Johnny or Jane, you're not approved yet with vendor X to pick up from Robert's Cafe. You haven't watched the safety video. And then after they've watched it, reinforce those habits with regular checklists and other protocols is all key. Learning is the tree trunk of everything we do in humanity. But the way it's been done, and Robert just described it, hey, watch me roll the silverware. I'm going to do it 3 more times. How is that done across thousands of miles, across hundreds of units, whatever it might be, and ensure that John and Jane are doing it at 1 in the afternoon or 1 a.m.? It's challenging, but technology enables us to do these basic things, this basic blocking and tackling, like driving to deliver a couple rolls of sushi or fried chicken safely.
But I'm going to jump in there because, Paul, you just say something. We allow anybody to drive, I won't say names, but a car to go from point A to point B. So while I have that food in the restaurant, I know what's happening to it because I got VirusSafe Pro and I've got protocols. But the minute it leaves my door, hey, I don't know if the guy's going to stop to get fuel or the girl's going to stop to get a candy or that, I've lost custody of that food, chain of custody. And, yes, there's protocols and nobody's put them in place, by the way. Nobody, not yet, has got a system in place that keeps my food safe or hot and delivered in an amount of time.
Yeah. Well, there you go. There's an opportunity for both of you to work on this there, because I think that is a solution that's going to be needed to help the industry, I should say, but expose some of the problems that need to be fixed. Gentlemen, it's been great having you on. We're going to have links in our chat to where you can learn more about VirusSafe Pro and WorkMerk and their great work over there. Robert, thank you very much. And John, of course, thank you for joining us today here on Recover America.
Thanks, Paul. Keep bringing great information to folks that need it.
You got it.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap up that one. And you guys are listening in. Maybe you're watching this live right now. You're over in the chat asking questions. That's what we want from you. And also, as we continue throughout the day, on our volumes here on Recover America, we will be having multiple virtual events throughout 2021, so this isn't the end of it. This is our second volume. As you will see, a lot of great brands and operators that are telling some amazing stories. So stay tuned right here on Recover America. We'll see you in a second.